City at the top of the hour every weekday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The Fourth Branch presents discussion, debate, commentaries on social, political issues, current events, sports, entertainment, religion, education, science, and every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. for a full presentation on controversial issues such as war on blacks, are Republicans dumber than Democrats? Information which might irritate you, make you cry, make you laugh, but above all, will make you smarter. Join us every time. It is the right thing to do. It is the only way to keep your sanity in a world of chaos, hypocrisy, immorality, and deception. Welcome to Common Sense. Welcome to the Fourth Branch program, the place for common sense. Hello everyone, I am MD. This is segment 2, and we have a special program. At this point, this would be segment 2 of our program, in which we will talk about, the topic of the day, sometimes news. But today, once again, we're going to combine segment 2 and segment 3. Now, just for information, if you did not know, every day we have 3 different segments. We have the first segment in which we read the Mueller report completely. That's all we do. We just read a portion of the report. In segment 2, we talk about a particular topic we prepared for the day. And in segment 3, usually we try to take a look at some of the news, or most important part of the news, and talk about it. But today, we're going to combine segment 2 and segment 3 and talk about something which is extremely important, because since after yesterday Mueller's 9-minute conference, the debate about Trump impeachment has once again heated up. And everybody is giving opinion about what is not, what should be done, what should not be done. So we prepare a couple of things that we need to talk about, since we're going to combine the 2 topics. First, you may see or be able to read behind me that the banner say impeachment is necessary, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But there are 2 other aspects of the discussion that we would like to bring forth to the surface. The first one is, of course, to recognize that there is a high level, and by high level, I mean extremely high level of ignorance within the Republican Party. And that is caused by a number of factors. We'll just look at the most important, and we'll tell you what can be done in order to fix that problem, because ignorance is definitely not acceptable, because ignorance is actually a big stumbling block, a major obstacle to any democracy. And we have watched in dismay people who are supposed to be smart people, and the kind of rationale that they bring forth, it's not completely their fault, but we'll address that. We also will take a look at another important aspect. This is the structure of our government and why we are, as a country, where we at in this juncture of history. Now, for those of you who have seen this for the first time, the Fourth Branch project did not start yesterday. It's actually something that started, in terms of concept anyway, that started almost a decade ago. And it is mostly based on the fact that we have seen that the way that our government, whether it's Democrat or Republican, has been behaving and the kind of thing that's been done. And more often than not, it's just a shift in party, but nothing has changed in terms of what that means for the constituent. If it means any benefit for the constituent. Now, we have done that. We mentioned before that we will give you we will walk you through 100 years of politics and show you along the way what each political party has been doing and as to what have we accomplished since then. Now, let's take the issue at hand. In order to start that, I'm gonna ask this important question. If you were to have a child, I would say the only child, but for unknown reason, we're not going to go to the detail of how that happened, but that child happened to be what society would consider not a good child, does all the wrong things. Is the question, what would you do? Now, while you're thinking about that, let me give you an interesting example of something that happened a few months ago. I think it was the CEO of Kroger. I'm fairly certain that's the example. But he was the CEO of a supermarket chain. I'm fairly certain it was Kroger. Captured on video dragging his wife. That was in a public space. I believe it was someplace that they either met, they had some sort of argument. I suppose that probably spill over to the public arena. But caught on tape, the CEO dragged his wife by the hair. Now, what happened next? Outrage. The public. Everyone asked that CEO removed from his post. It's a CEO of a private company. Total outrage. Twitter lit up. Everyone chimed in. That CEO must be removed, because anyone in that position as a CEO of a company, everyone expects that individual to have some decency, some level of decency. In other words, not that we expect or would prefer that he did that inside his own home, because the act itself is wrong, but to watch the CEO of a company, someone responsible for thousands or probably, I don't know, tens of thousands of people, which means you trust that individual to have some sort of decency, some sort of common sense. But watching him dragging his wife in public, caught on tape, was totally unacceptable by any standard. today, or for the past couple of years, we have had an individual in the Oval Office who has done all the wrong things in life. Language is vulgar, is not even his actions, his ways of doing things are very, very low, diminish, debase the office of the presidency. A few weeks ago, I had conversation with one of my fellow Republicans who asked the following question. I kid you not. What did Donald Trump do that's wrong? And that's the reason today we, as soon as we're done with this tranche of the impeachment aspect, we will address the second aspect of the problem that the country is going through. You don't have to have a college degree. You don't have to have, in fact, you don't even have to have had any education at all, unless one is to be completely ignorant. Then the question itself is a pretty stupid question, don't you think? Before Donald Trump, the office of the presidency has always been considered as the most important office in the country, if not in the world. There is a certain degree of decency that goes with it, a certain degree of integrity that's expected for the tenant of that office. Before Donald Trump, the individual who sits in the Oval Office is expected to do things that benefit everyone in the United States of America. Because we do not have two countries, we have one country. We have one president. And no matter how bad you feel about the people who did not vote for you, the individual who sit in the Oval Office is expected to take action, to sign executive order, to act things that benefit the United States of America as a whole, not a group, not the group that voted for that individual. For the past 2 years, this is a country that anyone who lived before Donald Trump and died, if that person were to come back, that person would not have recognized the United States of America. Now, after Robert Mueller has done his 9-minute conference, no question from reporter, this movement of gathering fact, collecting fact in order to get to some point, which is usually would be impeachment, the movement has gained steam because more and more people now are saying, yes, we should impeach Trump. That's mostly on the Democrat side. There is only one or a couple of Republicans, one Republican that's publicly saying the same thing, but behind the scene, there are a number of Republicans that believe it is probably time to start the impeachment process. In the meantime, the Democrat, but mostly Nancy Pelosi, has been holding the horses and saying, let's not rush to impeachment. What do you think? Should Donald Trump be impeached? Should he not be impeached? And what are the consequences? Remember, every action, there is a reaction. Every action carries consequences. There is no free lunch in life. You impeach, there is a reaction. You don't impeach, there is a reaction. You impeach, there are consequences. You don't impeach, there are consequences. There is no free lunch. Now you have Republicans as a whole, legislators and constituents alike, lining behind Donald Trump and saying no impeachment. In fact, we even have Mitch McConnell publicly saying that if Democrats were to impeach, they would just crush the whole thing in the Senate. And in the House, you have Nancy Pelosi holding firm and not wanting for impeachment to move forward. A lot of noise. Now, Robert Mueller, with what he did yesterday, gave even more fodder to those who are asking for Donald Trump to be impeached. Even Donald Trump's team cannot come up with anything to refute what Robert Mueller said except to try to start attacking his character, which we know will backfire because for 2 years Trump has done that. It never got him anywhere. But that's besides the point. So, should the impeachment happen or should it not happen? Or does it matter what you think? Because so far it looks like the only person who holds the card is Nancy Pelosi. Is Nancy Pelosi doing the right thing? Or if not, should now members of the Democrat Party take some very drastic action and get Nancy Pelosi out of the way? And this is what we're going to be looking at for a short time before we move to another extremely important aspect of the conversation, because solution is needed, not just for the predicament we're in, but for the country as a whole, because as you can see, this predicament didn't happen overnight. The Donald Trump presidency did not just happen. It was created. And as such, we ought to find why and it was created, who nurtured the idea, and how to prevent that from ever happening again in the United States of America. So we're going to look at the impeachment part first. We're going to read 2 articles. One that's from The Atlantic that says the wisest remedy is not impeachment. And we're also going to look at another article which is just the opposite of that article, which says why Congress must impeach Trump regardless the political cost. So there you have it, 2 very different opinions about one topic. We'll read those 2 articles. We're not sure whether we should go and read the both article completely or just read part of it. We'll try to we'll weigh that and see what happened, and we'll come back to tell you what we consider as the proper course of action. Because this is not politics, this is the future of our country. The decision made today, the decision made to or not to, will forever affect our government, our country. So the decision cannot just be something that becomes a political football. So stick with me for a moment, because this is extremely important. You hear, depending on which venue you tune into to listen to who is saying what. Here at the Fourth Branch, we don't give news the way that you're accustomed to. When we discuss a piece of news, we try to bring forth common sense into the discussion. That doesn't mean our solution will always be the ultimate, the best, but it will be a solution. At the very least, we will provide some path forward, and the rest will be completely up to the citizen of the country. This is the Fourth Branch program, after all, a place for common sense. Now, here's how the Atlantic began the article that impeachment, the wisest remedy is not impeachment. Former special counsel Robert Mueller yesterday turned up the pressure on House Democrats. Mueller emphasized and underlined that there is strong evidence that Trump obstructed justice and that only Congress can constitutionally decide what to do about that evidence. The writer has a sense of humor, and the next sentence is over to you, Nancy Pelosi. Pelosi, of course, has resisted the push for impeachment hearing, but more and more national Democrats are calling for them, and after yesterday's Mueller statement, that flow may rush into a flood. They are upholding the case advanced by Yoni Applebaum in the Atlantic. Only by authorizing a dedicated impeachment inquiry can the House begin to assemble disparate allegations into a coherent picture, forcing lawmakers to consider both whether specific charges are true and whether the president's abuses of his power justify his removal. Yet, this very coherence could, under present condition, likely will undo itself. Right now, Trump is fighting on many fronts to suppress many investigations of many different forms of alleged wrongdoing. And the article go and talk about a lot of aspects as to why they think the Democrats are heading towards impeachment. Now, the most important point that the article made was that if the Democrats move forward with the impeachment and Trump is acquitted, then that will make Trump unbeatable. It will make it impossible for Trump to be removed from office, even in the 2020 presidential election. And that has been the argument that mostly Republicans have advanced in terms of trying to scare the Democrat from pursuing impeachment. And ironically, that also has been the argument that Nancy Pelosi has been looking at, and that's why she has been very careful. And if I were to make to try to look into my crystal ball and draw a conclusion, I would say that Nancy Pelosi will never let impeachment happen. I know it sounds impossible. It sounds as if that's not what's happening. It sounds based on what Nancy Pelosi has been saying, that some people probably hold hope that at some point she will give in. I can bet that Nancy Pelosi already made up her mind. She will run out the clock and she will never let impeachment happen. And because she made the calculation, impeachment is actually bad for the 2020 presidential election. Now, having said that, we're going to take a quick look at the other article, which says that why Congress must impeach Trump regardless of political cause. Don't go anywhere. Now, here is what the other side of the argument is. Donald Trump must be impeached to save the republic. Not to impeach Trump is unpatriotic, unconstitutional even. USA is for sale. The White House is on sale. America is now officially among the most corrupt government in the world. Way to go, America. Not to impeach Trump would be the greatest affront to our country, to the world, to the society. Donald Trump is the perfect sample of what a human being should not be. A sample most parents, logical parents that is, would dread their children to be. Mr. Trump is the individual parents would point to as what not to become. Yet, millions of people who can identify with him, voting him in office, continue to support him and even defend his action. But no president can be impeached for being despicable, although we, the rest of the country, can lament, but the Constitution offers no remedy for this problem. Fortunately, the country does not have to accept the vicious individual that he, Mr. Trump, has provided to the legislative body, strict of corruption and violation, even violation of the oath he took. A violation of the oath of office is more than sufficient to impeach any president. And of course, the article went on to provide detail as to why not impeaching Trump is bad for the country. Oh, he's right. Nothing has changed. There are two groups and two very large groups in the country. A group that says Trump should not be impeached because it's bad. And of course, there is the group that says Trump should be impeached because he has done wrong, he has committed a crime. In fact, yesterday, that's exactly what Robert Mueller said. That Donald Trump has committed crime. And even after that conference by Robert Mueller, Nancy Pelosi said, hold your horses. We're not there yet. We'll be right back. We'll show you just a couple of minutes, or probably 1 or 2 minutes, of Robert Mueller making the case that indeed Donald Trump has committed a crime. And what do we do, or what should we do? Should we not impeach because it's divisive? It may give Donald Trump a chance to be reelected? Or should we impeach because this is what ought to be done, regardless of the political cost? What should be done? What would you do? Let's find out shortly. Okay, here's the gist of this whole thing. The President of the United States. Let's put aside for a moment partisanship. Let's consider that the office of the presidency is sacred. And we expect the individual who sit in that office not just to behave so that the office can be honored, but we expect that individual to actually be the person that we can look up to for guidance when the country is in trouble. Now, there is not a single individual on the face of this planet, and notice I say on the face of this planet, who doesn't see Donald Trump not having the United States of America interest at heart. Because everything, every action, every move that Donald Trump takes or makes is a move that you can rest assured will benefit Donald Trump. If you see something that seems to benefit America, guaranteed it's just a byproduct. Not because this is the intent, because Donald Trump doesn't operate that way. Someone goes to a store. We have laws. In fact, currently, we have sitting in jail for life in California individual whose only crime are petty theft. Steal a bag of potato chip here, bag of potato chip there, 3 strike you out. Now they're sitting in jail for life. Now we have sitting in the Oval Office an individual whose crime are way beyond what we just said. And those are not simple words of, those damn libtards, as Republicans like to refer to Democrats. No, documented facts that Donald Trump, the current president of the United States, not only has committed crime, but also behaved in ways that demean, debase the office of the president. If for nothing else, that should be sufficient for United States Congress to take the step of removing that individual. Lindsey Graham made that case in 1998. It's not even about committing a crime, according to Lindsey Graham. It's about living as a decent individual, because you are the president of the United States and you're supposed to be an example, a model for the nation, for the world even. And Lindsey Graham made that case in 1998. If that's not the case, then the legislative body can decide to remove that person. Crime aside. Now we're talking about an individual who has committed a crime. The Republicans rallied around him to say, oh, it's okay for a president to commit crimes. That's exactly what they're saying. No matter what spin they put around it, that's exactly what it boils down to. It's okay for someone who has committed a crime to be the president of the United States. That's what Republican has been saying for the past couple of years. We did not need the report from Robert Mueller to know, to see firsthand, right there in front of us, that Donald Trump publicly has been committing crime after crime. At the very least, behaving in ways that are not acceptable for the President of the United States. It's been in full display. Now, the Democrats, in the 2018 midterm election, got a mandate from the constituent and say, go and clean that up. Now, before that mandate, Nancy Pelosi and company were all up in arms that they're gonna do something about it. As soon as the Mueller report comes out, we're just gonna charge and make sure that Donald Trump is removed from office. But the Mueller report came out, and since then, Nancy Pelosi has been dancing around the issue. The framers of the Constitution made a few mistakes, which is something I've been talking about here for quite some time now. They never envisioned that there would be that many members of a political party who would abandon patriotism in order to protect their political career. They never envisioned something like that. Now, I understand why they never did. It's because obviously they were all patriots. So they did not make provision for a situation like this. That first you have Republican the whole Republican political party completely relinquishing their duty to exercise oversight because, well, it's a Republican in the Oval Office. Now you have the Democrats that are worrying that if we do what we are tasked to do, we may pay a political cost. And if what I'm about to tell you may sound far-fetched to you, but it is a guarantee, the way we're seeing things happening, that even if Donald Trump were to personally kill someone, both Democrats and Republicans today would have said, we cannot do much about it because, political cost, and you think it's far-fetched? That's exactly what we see evolving right under our eyes. Republicans are saying we're not going to do anything about it, and Democrats are saying that we will pay a political cost. The framers of the Constitution introduced the impeachment process because that's the only way to hold an individual who is the President of the United States accountable. That's the only way. And now we have 535 members in the legislative body that cannot take that job seriously and do that job for which they were elected. Because there is political cost. And the question we should ask, what the hell did we elect those people for? The President of the United States can commit crime. We do nothing about it because, there is a political cost to pay. And you know what's ironic? We don't know there is a political cost to pay. That's number one. And number two, we don't know that not impeaching Trump would give the presidency to the Democrats. Because there are circumstances that we cannot anticipate that may make it impossible for that to happen. So we have Nancy Pelosi, who presumably is great at calculating costs, but couldn't care less about the Constitution of the United States. On the Republican side, you have Mitch McConnell, that's great at protecting the Republican Party and couldn't care less about the Constitution. Democrats, Republican, couldn't care less. And personally, as I'm talking to you, I couldn't care less what the political cost is, because if I commit a crime, I pay for that crime. And the only tool the framers of the Constitution provided us to hold the President of the United States accountable for his crime is through impeachment. And if we don't hold the President accountable for his crime, then who is going to hold it? Then the political cost, because that's the freaking job you were elected to do. At this point, it has become pretty obvious that neither Democrat nor Republicans care much about the Constitution of the United States. Because as you can tell, for the first 2 years, Republicans dancing around the idea of exercising oversight on the executive branch because of, political costs. They don't want to lose their seats. Now you have the Democrats who are now in control, now calculating political costs because, 2020 is coming. So who the hell is left to run our government and to hold the President of the United States accountable? So who is going to do that? Mitch McConnell, representing the Republican Party, already decided that he's not going to hold the president accountable. Nancy Pelosi is dancing around the issue, and I guarantee you, mark my word, Nancy Pelosi has no intention of letting impeachment happen. She would prevent it from happening until it just can no longer happen. Mark my words. All these dance she's doing to pretend that at some point it will happen, it will not happen unless the Democrats take drastic steps to push Nancy Pelosi aside. The idea of holding Donald Trump accountable will not happen. And our country will be stand forever. For God's sake, Bill Clinton was impeached for way much less. Donald Trump is a corrupt individual. Forget about even the crime that he committed. He is by nature a corrupt individual. He is a crook, a scoundrel, a liar. Forget about the crime that he committed with Russia. The office of the presidency needs to be restored. So if Nancy Pelosi cannot, we're not talking about having courage here. We're talking about doing the job for which they elected you. There is no need for courage. The template is already there. The framers of the Constitution provided that template. There is no courage needed. All that's needed is to follow that template. And for those saying there is a political cost, well, if that's the case, then what's the point of having the impeachment procedure? What's the point? Why don't we just remove it completely from the Constitution? There will always be a political cost. There will always be a cost. I understand that decency doesn't exist anymore in the Republican Party, because for 2 years they were completely in control of the most of the important branches of the government, and they did absolutely nothing. In fact, they encourage, they nurture the environment of crime, the environment of scandal. Which brings me to the next part of our discussion, which is actually the next two parts, which are really very much related. What is the solution to this problem? Before we talk about the solution, let's take a quick look at a 2-minute conversation. Well, not conversation, a 2-minute of Mueller's statement from yesterday.
The order appointing me special counsel authorized us to investigate actions that could obstruct the investigation. And we conducted that investigation, and we kept the office of the acting attorney general apprised of the progress of our work. And as set forth in the report, after that investigation, If we had had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so.
So what is the solution? I was really pretty much yelling, screaming. Sometimes I guess I get overly excited about things like that. I apologize for that, because it is frustrating to see that, I was raised in an environment where my parent taught me a very valuable lesson that I carry with me, and I pass that down to my children. It's to always face the truth. Do what's noble, do what's right, no matter the consequences. Because the minute you stop thinking how that would benefit you, whether that would benefit you, then you start going down a path that we know is wrong. The Republican for 2 years did not hold Donald Trump accountable. Well, it didn't start yesterday. We know the Republican Party legislators have been going down that path for the longest. But with Donald Trump, it becomes more and more obvious to the rest of the world. The Democrats, in general, that people who do not agree with their policies, usually do not agree with their policy, but at least they were more or less transparent. Because if they are for gay, they are for gay. If they are not for certain things, they are not for certain. They're for abortion, they're for abortion. At least they put their cards on the table. You may not like it, you may not want to go along with it, but at the very least, you know exactly where they stand. Republicans have always been claiming to be something they're not. Fiscally conservative, take a look. Are they? They're Christian. Are they? I mean, you can go down the list that they claim to have a bunch of core values that as you go down the list, you'll find out that just claim. But they do not live according to the label that they claim. But now we are at an impasse. That impasse is not something to just walk away and shrug off, because there are consequences which will follow us to generation to come. The simple exercise of impeaching the individual in the Oval Office for committing a crime will have consequences if not done. Probably serious consequences. And as I mentioned earlier, mark my words, Nancy Pelosi will never, ever let impeachment happen. No matter what you hear she's saying, she already made up her mind that's not going to happen. Now, what's the solution? Now, we must recognize a couple of obstacles. Ignorance. There is a high level of ignorance within the Republican Party. I said that earlier, and in fact, I had a documentary in which I discussed the scientific proof that in life-related matter, Republicans are dumber than Democrats. Now, the Republican legislators, the Republican elected officials, and places like Fox exploit that weakness because they know that no matter what they say to the constituent, they will take it for granted, they will take it as true. In fact, despite the fact it's been proven that Donald Trump lied constantly, continuously, we have come across people, supporters of Trump after supporters of Trump, who continue to repeat the same lies that have been proven lies by the rest of the nation. Just to give you an idea of how high the level of ignorance within the Republican Party. Ignorance is the biggest obstacle to democracy. Yes, you heard correctly. The biggest obstacle to democracy is ignorance. And in the Republican Party, there is a high degree of ignorance. It did happen under Donald Trump, but it has exacerbated under Donald Trump. Fox has always been around dumbifying the Republican constituent. Fox has been doing that for decades now. Now Donald Trump takes the banner and running with it. Which smart individual would continue to believe someone who has been lying to them? Which smart individual would do that? Now I take issue when I hear networks, members of network, I understand why they do it, trying to say that the American people are smart people. They understand. Now I understand they cannot say anything other than that in order not to alienate a number of the viewers, not to alienate a number of their followers, and of course, most importantly, so that they don't lose their job. But seriously, which smart person would continue to listen to a liar? Which smart person would do that? I ask my fellow Republicans, those who are staunch supporters of Donald Trump, I say, would you use Donald Trump as a role model for your children or your grandchildren? So no, those individuals are not smart people. Because smart people would recognize they made a mistake, because that happened. Any man can make mistake. In fact, Marcus Cicero said that. Any man can make mistake. But only an idiot persists in his error. So making mistake is not an issue. You human being, you're going to make mistake. Any man can make mistake. But when you find that you have those millions of people who continue to live in ignorance, who continue to make the same mistake, who continue to believe an individual who has lied to them over and over and over and over non-stop, now why would you think that person is smart or those people are smart? How do you define smart? No, those individuals, they're not smart people. And Donald Trump and a lot of Republican legislators, elected officials, take advantage of that. They exploit they continue. As a matter of fact, that's what bothers me to the core. You would think elected officials, legislators, would want their constituents to become intelligent individuals. knowledgeable individual, but rather they prefer the constituent to stay dumb, they prefer the constituent to stay ignorant, and as such, they continue to dumbify their constituent. JFK said that the ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of us all. The ignorance of one voter. The ignorance of one voter. Now, multiply that by millions. The ignorance of one voter impairs the security of us all. One voter impairs the security of us all. How about millions of voters? So at this point, we need a third political party. Yes, I know there are a lot of third political party, the Green Party, etc., etc. That's not what I meant. I mean a third political party that can challenge, that's able to challenge, and that can actually become, that can get someone to become president of the United States. Not just a third political party to be just on the front. A third political party that will have enough of us, we the people, shift our allegiance from those two major political parties to another party that can actually do the job of the people, because it's already determined. We've seen it. The Republicans are not doing it. The Democrats are not doing it. We have 200 plus years of this exercise. It's not happening. When you repeat the same thing over and over and over and get the same result, it's called insanity to continue to do that. As it stands today, the Republican Party do not work for the sake of the people. The Democrats do no longer work for the people. In other words, we do not have any representation. So we need an alternative to that. And I don't mean a third party that just come, and we need a solid third political party that can really challenge both of those parties that do not do the job of the people. Because as it stands today, for 200 plus years, neither the Democrat nor the Republican seems to care about the United States, seems to care about the Constitution, seems to care about the people, because we've seen firsthand now, right under our eyes, that both Democrats and Republicans simply care about their political career. What is good for their political career, that's all that matters. So what do we do as people? We need to break that cycle. We cannot continue to do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. We've been doing it for 200 plus years. And now those individuals are brazen. Mitch McConnell will tell you point blank, we're not going to hold the president accountable. He doesn't even care, because he knows that there is no cost to pay, no price to pay. And now Nancy Pelosi is dancing around an issue that's so simple, that's so well outlined in our Constitution. It's like someone telling me he or she is a Christian, but cannot see a problem killing someone, although it clearly says in the Bible that thou shalt not kill. It doesn't jive because it is well defined in our Constitution that a president who doesn't live up to the office of the presidency shall be removed. And Lindsey Graham in 1998 made exactly that case for the impeachment of Bill Clinton. If we want to change the course of how things are done, how elected officials attend to the affairs of the people, it's time that we, the people, start taking the decision to bring a party which will do and attend to the affairs of the people. Because if we don't do that, we're going to spend another 200 years seeing the same thing, even worse, because as you can see, as we move forward, things are getting from bad to worse. Now, it is not even being done or discussed behind closed doors, right in public, without any fear that they can lose their job. They're just saying exactly what they're not doing for the people. Mitch McConnell clearly said, I couldn't care less what you think. I'm just not going to hold the president accountable because he doesn't expect to pay any price. That's not the United States of America. So this is a path we have to explore here in the United States, because as it stands, neither political party, neither the Democrat nor the Republican are doing anything to attend to the affairs of the country. Holding Donald Trump accountable is part of the deal. The calculation of the political cost is not part of the deal. It is the job of the elected official, the congressman, to exercise oversight on the executive branch, irrespective of the political cost. Mrs. Pelosi, we the people did not send you to Washington to calculate how to keep your job, but rather what to do to restore decency in the country. And one of such way is not for you to play crystal ball or to try to figure out what it will be like in 2020, but now to hold the President of the United States accountable for his crime. You cannot write history in the future. That's not the way it works. You do the job for which you are elected and let history take care of that. This is what's supposed to happen. This is what you're supposed to do. You were tasked. You are mandated to exercise oversight on the executive branch. Now, regardless of political cost, this is not your job to calculate. Your job is to facilitate the process so that we in the country can hold the President of the United States responsible, and if at all possible, restore decency in the Oval Office. Mrs. Pelosi, your job is not to avoid doing bad job and by calculating what the political cost is. That doesn't make you smart. In fact, it makes you not an individual who is attending to the affairs of the country. And it is not your job to think or even understand whether the Senate is going to convict or is going to remove the president. That's not your job. You cannot anticipate, you cannot predict what the Senate is going to do, because once the process starts, there will be enough of evidence that will be aired out, and the Senate may not have any choice. So you don't know what the Senate is going to do. There is no way you can know that. What you're hearing Mitch McConnell saying, Lindsey Graham saying, it's because there is nothing for them to go on with. But once the process starts, there is no way for anyone to know where it is going. Donald Trump has debased the office of the presidency. Donald Trump has debased the office of the presidency. It is the job of the legislative branch to hold him accountable. And there is only one way to do that. Is to impeach the president. So it is understood that indeed, as we have been saying, not just for the sake of saying it, no one is above the law. If we don't hold him accountable, how could you be repeating that nonsense? Because so far, Donald Trump has gotten away with every single instance of crime he has committed. So how could we be continue to repeat that nonsense? No one is above the law. Requires that something is done about it. So repeating it doesn't do anything. The template needed has already been drawn by the framers of the Constitution. The criteria for impeachment have already been met. The evidence for impeachment has already been submitted. And we keep repeating the nonsense, no one is above the law. What does that mean in English? It is time that we, the people, decide to take a different route if we want the country to continue using the Constitution. Because as it stands today, Democrats, Republicans, they not concerned about us. They're not concerned about the country. They're concerned about their political career. And because that's more important to them, it's time that we, the people, really make that decision. Not just sit on the sideline, not just talk about it, but really make the decision that it's time for a political party which really takes the country as the priority, which really put the country above everything else. And it is my hope that this is one of the many such programs we have, calling for the country to start looking at alternative, because Democrats is no longer, the Democrat Party is no longer the alternative. The Republican Party has long gone from being an alternative. So it's time we, the people, seek for an alternative, because the United States of America is in crisis. Let not let it become a tragedy. if you are a patriot, you cannot not be outraged. Because this is not a matter of being Democrat or being Republican. Because the very reason that our democracy survives is because of that very structure of our government. The minute that you don't have any oversight, then at that point, the idea of democracy in the United States of America ceases to exist. So if you are a Republican and you think it's okay, then you too are no patriot. There is no other word of saying it. No matter what you hear people saying, trying to sugarcoat, trying to go around to explain it to you, that's all it means. If you are okay with what is currently going on with Donald Trump, with the Republican Party, you categorically are not a patriot. And no matter what you think of yourself, you are not a patriot. Because a patriot is someone who would give or who would make sacrifice sometimes of his or her own life, let alone sacrifice a political party in order to preserve the democracy, in order to preserve the Constitution, in order to preserve the rule of law. So if you cannot do that, don't talk to anyone about being patriot, because you are no patriot. That was an update through the prism of common sense. Join us again tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. for a full presentation. I am MD, host of the Fourth Branch program, The Place for Common Sense. Send us comments, criticism, suggestion, or simply let us know how we're doing. Have a wonderful afternoon. See you next time.
The Fourth Branch podcast is brought to you in collaboration with the People Branch publication, which can be found on the People Branch website, located at peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org website, in which you will find a number of very interesting articles. My name is Mike Duchesne, MD for short. I hope you have a great afternoon or a great evening, whichever it happens to be. Hopefully you can join me again next time for another interesting episode of this podcast. That was the Fourth Branch, live from New York. Good day.